Hi there. And it looks like that we are actually going live now. If you are there, please give me a little shout out in the chat as I am unsure who's there. Those of you who are on Facebook, go ahead and pop yourself in the chat. I am just about to check everyone is there. Welcome to those of you who are new to Aware Meditation Inc. We are having our monthly online group meditation. This is where we open up our sessions that are usually for those who have learnt Vedic meditation to be able to participate and get to know us a little bit more. And we have a special guest every time. I'm very excited for our guest today, who's dialing in late in the UK, and she will be sharing her experience of dealing with COVID-19, seemingly a sniffle, and did the responsible action, got herself tested, found out that she had COVID, somehow managed to get childcare as a single mother, and was hospitalized. So we are excited to have her come along. If you have questions that you'd like to ask her specifically, please put it in the chat and I'll make sure that she is asked those questions. She will be joining us a wee bit later. In the interim, if you're there, please say hello and put your questions in the chat. I will make sure that everyone is included and do my best to ensure that no one is left out. All right, and let's start with a few introductions to those of you who don't know. This is Aware Meditation Inc. You should all be here live, and I am going to play our introductory video about what we do while we have some people that are dialing in.
When was the last time you had 5 minutes of pure, uninterrupted peace? No thinking about yesterday or worrying about tomorrow, but fully immersed in the present moment, free of your troubles. According to the National Library of Medicine, 90% of doctors' visits are for stress-related health complaints, but even a moderately stressful lifestyle reduces life expectancy. Our modern lifestyles demand increased technological screen time, bombardment of media fear, unpredictable work schedules, fluctuating financial security, that all place additional strain on our nervous systems with little time to rest and restore. Mental clarity depletes, immunity suppresses, and our nervous system suffers. Our newly seemed connected lifestyles have us less connected to the practices of deep rest from our ancestors.
Hello, my name is Paula Newman, founder of Aware Meditation Inc. Vedic meditation teaches a simple practice that allows the nervous system to go from the fight or flight response to the relaxation state, 20 minutes twice a day, without the use of apps, visualization, hypnosis, or any outside stimulation. It is practiced sitting comfortably and with the use of a mantra allows the mind to go inward very easily and effortlessly. It is designed for regular folk with busy lives and even busier minds.
Okay, I've been practicing Vedic meditation for 24 years, and I honestly can't imagine life without it.
My favorite part about Vedic meditation is the relief and the reprieve I get from my brain. So it just gives me so much rest and just a lot more power in my daily experience of life.
I would highly recommend learning meditation from Paula because she has this very easy, effortless way of teaching.
Aware Meditation Inc. is a unique non-profit organization providing individuals, businesses, and families with practical self-sufficient stress reduction techniques, including Vedic meditation for sustainable mental and physical health wellness worldwide. Our outreach program holds 3 new global initiatives to teach underrepresented low-income groups of 108 participants per course within their own communities without financial strain. The course is taught over 4 sessions on consecutive days with multiple Vedic meditation teachers in person. We invite you to join us in shifting the current global fight-or-flight mindset. help us empower all peoples to practice daily sustainable wellness techniques, release stress, sharpen inner listening, and rise out of unhealthy habits and circumstances. United, we can create, inspire, and awaken the capabilities of the human condition in global purpose together.
Beautiful. So those of you who don't know, that is what our nonprofits. I guess I'm just getting a bit emotional. It happens. That's what our mission statement is. That's what we are about, apart from having private teaching for individuals. And those of you who don't know, we have a few fun events coming up. Right now, I'm going to introduce Camilla. She's going to join us for the group meditation, and we will then get started with our group meditation today. So in she comes with the help of Zoom. And welcome, Camilla. We see that you have your lovely icon up. And we're live with you now. Hi. We don't hear you because you're on mute, but I definitely heard Jay Gurudev.
Jay Gurudev.
And we have matching green today.
Color.
Oh, and almost the same with the earrings, right? I got a little bit
big. I went big.
You went big. I went elegant today.
Oh, very good. No, I thought big white keep me awake.
Oh yes, so she is being a super trooper, not to quote ABBA, but I did. And it is 11:05 p.m. in the UK right now. We have I want to give some shout outs to those who are in the chat. I want to say hi to Rachel and Dave. And Jamie, Becky's here, Anna is here from the UK while you're staying up late. And let's see what we've got. Anyone here on Facebook? I'm not sure. We've got one person there. I can't quite see them. So we've just played the video welcoming people to what aware meditation is. Both of us are Vedic meditation teachers. We went away for over 3 months to get rid of our stress. In the hopes to help you out. A practice that we are not pretending to be any guru at all. Let us spend all our life in India. We're very much householders who found the technique exceptionally powerful and changed our lives, that we decided we wanted to be able to pass that on to other people in the world. Camilla's based in, is it Kent area? Which there? Yes, okay.
Southeast England, southeast, just outside London.
Just outside London. And she is a single mom. How old is your little one now?
He's 5 and 3 months, as it happens.
Okay. So 5, those first 5 years of programming are in.
Yeah, I've survived. We all made it through so far. And it's real stop and like he started school. So it's like, it's a shift change. It's good. It's evolution.
Right. And has he learned a meditation practice yet?
Do you know, we've just been talking about it. He sings when I do the puja. He'll join in and sprinkle willy-nilly. The sandalwood goes everywhere, and the fruit's definitely been eaten before it's been offered. And he says, Jay Guru, what? Jay Guru, what? But we've talked about that. You know, if you can keep a secret, you can learn to meditate. But I'm waiting for him to come to me, so he knows. But it's you have to wait, don't you? You have to wait with your family to let them come to you, but it's hard because you're like, come on. So it's an exercise of surrender.
Exercise of surrender indeed. And those of you who are tuning in who don't know what she's talking about, when we teach people this practice, which is done in person over 4 days, we have a dedication to the tradition from where we learnt it. And this is because we are not in the business of appropriating other people's culture without acknowledging them. So we do have an image of individual that had the tradition and where it came down. And so we give a nice dedication for us to do that. And so, you know, the person who learns, we're not making this up, and we are actually honoring those that came before us. So people who are in our practice, who's here, I see Robert's here, Debbie, hello, Toby. We are going to get started with our meditation. I'm going to help those who don't know what we do. Our practice looks really boring. I'm going to show you. It's like this. There's nothing woo-woo about what we're doing. Everything is completely relaxed in the body. We sit with our back supported, our necks free. Sometimes there's some movement, and we close our eyes. And those of you who haven't yet learnt our particular practice, I'm going to encourage you to sit comfortably, close your eyes, and take a breath for a moment. You're going to notice that your mind is beginning to chatter a bit. And I'm going to tell you, let it. Let it do that for the next 15 minutes or so, as we're going to sit in quiet. And those of you who do have our practice, you'll know what to do. Simply allow yourself to feel the weight of your body on a chair or sofa, wherever you're sitting, and allow yourself to simply move in and have the next 15 minutes or so letting the mind wander and enjoy it. We spend very little time allowing our minds to wander, and here you have permission to do that. So with that, I'm going to close my eyes. I will put myself on mute in case there's any noise, and simply allow yourself to enjoy the next 15 minutes. During that, if you have questions, please just pop them in the chat there or on the live stream. And we're going to sit with you and enjoy this beautiful quiet time. And those of you who are joining us, we're going to take a couple of more minutes to bring ourselves back to the world. And that means we might begin to breathe a little deeper, move the body gently, maybe rolling the shoulders, a couple of neck rolls, and then we'll slowly open our eyes. I always like us to all open our eyes at the same time. So just bear with us, and then we'll all open our eyes together. And taking our time, we will slowly lift up the eyelids. And this means that if you're unsure, simply find a focal point towards the floor with your eyelids down and run across that point on the floor until it intersects with a vertical element. And slowly but surely open your eyes, going upward. You'll notice that there is a point where you feel yourself coming up and out. And that is really important to do very slowly. Because when we come out of our practice, those of us who have the gift of sight, the majority of our data comes in, and it can be jarring. Even if we've had lots of thoughts during those last 20 minutes, we will notice that, get some echo here, we will notice that we feel a little different. And we want to bleed through that deeper connectivity from within that we gain while being in the world. So it's absolutely imperative we honor the slow time coming out of a meditation, even if you think nothing happened. Or even if you think you just spent 20 minutes thinking about what you were thinking about. Because I can definitely feel a shift in my physiology, my nervous system, right? And that moment at deep inhalation afterwards, exhalation, there's a rejuvenation that has occurred. So let's go up here. I'm going to see if we have any questions. Those of you who are joining us who want to ask questions on YouTube, it simply asks you to subscribe to be able to put your question in the chat. Those of you who are on Facebook, then I can see that come up quite easily. All right. And I do know that some of you will be joining us who haven't subscribed. I will be making a big plea right now. Please do so. We are going to embark in the end of May on our new series of interview questions where we will bring people in from all walks of life and ask them some wonderful mind-bending questions leading to what is, well, lack of a better word, what is their why? How do they perceive the world? What do they envision leaving the world to be? We're very excited about that, and we want to get as many people in the world to see that. So please subscribe, like if you wish, but subscriptions really make a big difference. And now we're going to spend a little bit of a few moments talking to Camilla. I'd like to, if it's all right with you, give us a brief history of how you came to meditation and what pulls you to be a teacher. During this, I'm going to put the screen on you and make sure I can attend to a little bit of business, but I will be listening to that. So let me just do it and go ahead.
So hi everybody, it's lovely to be here. It's nice We tend not to meditate late at night. So for me, it's about 11:30. It's quite a treat. It's like a wild night in to meditate late at night. And it has a different experience. I have a 5-year-old, and I find that the sort of bedtime story routine, I've been just falling asleep about 8 o'clock in the evening. So this is a real treat. My meditation story, I've been telling, Paula's written this wonderful book, and my story's in there about how I kind of, when the crunch came to actually learn, it was all about a friend of mine who had transformed in front of me. But I realized, kind of going back, that there's one of these sort of stories that the universe often plays, like a trick the universe plays on you. Like when I left school, I knew that the one thing I didn't want to be in my life was a teacher. So of course I'm a school teacher, and within the school that I went to, we had quite an enlightened chaplain. We called him Nick the Vic. It's very English. We had a school chaplain, and he was quite forward thinking. I think he quite liked drinking as well. But anyway, he had a wife and a kid, and he was just, he had this little space, this little porter cabin, I don't know what that means in America, what you call those, but these little sort of temporary building that I would go to on a Wednesday evening. I was at boarding school, and he would hold communion. And I mean, there were sort of 3 or 4 of us who went, and in a boarding school, at any excuse to go somewhere different. And he had this very simple wooden altar, and he had a picture of Mother Teresa, and it was just nothing like my religious upbringing at all. It was very different. It was very quiet. It was all about stillness. And one of the things that he did as part of his kind of contribution to the school is that once a month he'd get in these speakers. It was called Sunday at 8, and he got all the different religious speakers in. And so we had the Hare Krishnas come and chant. We had rock gospel. We had who else made an impression on me? Every different kind of person turn up. And also every spring we would have for Lent, again, this is, we had quite a Christian background in England, but we would have a monk or a nun come and hang out in our school for a month. It was extraordinary to meet actual religious people, and they, we talked about, do you wear socks with your sandals or whatever. Anyway, in amongst all of that, the transcendental meditation guy came. I didn't know that was his name, and he was the worst speaker I have ever heard. He managed to switch all of us, and we were slightly entitled, kind of 16 to 17, 18-year-olds. And he basically said, I have a word that will change your life, which is what Paul and I do. And we have that word, and we can give it to you. We have a word that will change your life. And we're like, give us the word, give us the word, give us the word. He did the bubble diagram. Again, some of you will know what this is. And yeah, and he had, again, in the 80s, this is like early 90s, no, late 80s, in England, there was a famous advert where a man had scraped all his hair across his very bald head, and it was the Hamlet cigar advert, and he had this very scraped hair, and he just turned us all off completely, just very unrelatable to the 18-year-olds that we were. Anyway, fast forward, another 20 years or so, I was in my 30s, and I went along and I learned to meditate because this friend of mine had this transformation that I witnessed. We drank all the way through our 20s together. Anyway, we got to the 30s. He was looking really well. I was really stressed. I went to learn to meditate. On day 2 of my meditation course, I suddenly realized that this was that thing that guy had told me about, that I thought was, I would never do it because it was awful. And here I was, I had done it without even noticing. So I feel like there's something, these little seeds that come along that you then come back to, and you're like, oh, I realize now. And usually it's like a good sort of, like the cute meat in a movie, isn't it? Usually when you hate someone at the beginning, you love them towards the end, don't you? So I very much had the kind of, I don't need meditation, I'm fine, leave me alone. I'm going to struggle on for a long time. And when it came quite hard and quite fast, and yeah, shifted my perception of everything almost immediately. And it was the year Obama came into power, got elected. So, I always think it's easy to remember that year. And that's when I learned to meditate. And then I've been teaching since 2014, and that's 7 years. So for me, it's a really interesting time this year, because it's like, so somehow 7's an important number, isn't it? You have that expression of the 7-year itch. There's a shift in my, what I'm sort of ready to do and what I'm available for. So it's been a very interesting year.
Well, yeah, Camilla's full story is in the ebook, Vedic Meditation Stories. I'm just going to show you that. So you can get that on the website here. She has been a wonderful assist. I don't know a better word right now, helping with the book. We're going to be updating it, maybe with a few more stories. And she did a fabulous video about it. This ebook right now, if you have Amazon Prime with unlimited Kindle, you can actually get it for free. And the nonprofit does get some points, I believe, if the more pages you read on the first reading. And Camilla read through the whole thing the first time.
It's true.
Right. And did a beautiful review for it. But more than that, the book is there for people who can't necessarily right now, during COVID, get to a teacher. So how do we know if this works or it doesn't? And these stories in here are heart-wrenching, honest, that will give you more than a teacher can tell you, because obviously it worked for me because I became a teacher and you became a teacher. But someone who's not quite sure, there's nothing out there right now that says what happens to people when they learn to meditate, how it changed their life in a very tangible way that is not what I call the false advertising of meditation. And so with that, I do actually want to move forward and talk, Camilla, I'm going to share this now with you about what happened for you when you had a sniffle, as you said, in December, being a meditation teacher and sometimes being told, oh, you're immune from getting these particular illnesses. Oh, you just connect into consciousness. And you then found yourself hospitalized with a COVID-19, a single mom with a little boy who's now 5. I'd love to hear about the process and also how the doctors responded to your recovery with it. Was this something that knocked you off your feet? Did you feel it coming? Were you spending hours at night thinking, why me? What did I do? Let's get all the juicy details and a few questions I'm sure are going to pop up now.
It's really interesting because it's that thing of going back to it. I think from the very beginning, part of, there's this idea of this herd immunity, like let's just get it and get immune and get on with it, which I think is my kind of approach to things, like let's just get it done. Which of course at the very beginning, I smashed my phone this time last year, and I could feel the sense of panic in me about this very minor thing. Fast forward then to the December, I'm a school teacher, so we had to go back to school. There's lots of anxiety in the collective around that. And I had children coughing in my face. I teach 9-year-olds. So there was a lot of the kind of, I'm working with people who were very fearful at a very, not to belittle it, but, they're fearful about the practicalities of the germ and the virus and the washing of the hands. And I had no fear about that at all. A friend of mine sent me a text, are you frightened of this? I'm like, no, I'm not at all frightened of it, which then felt a bit, maybe arrogant or something. But come December, I had this really strong urge that my son had to go and try out this tennis tryout, but nothing in it, like a club. And I'm pretty sure we got COVID there. And again, it's that interesting thing around that somehow it was written for me to get it. And I would never say to anybody else, you caused your own illness. But for me, I find it quite powerful to see my own agency in things, because it allows me to have power to do something about it. And so I got the virus. It was the last week of term. So I think I had my test on the 14th of December. I woke up in the middle of the night and I was like, this is something different. It was very clear. And again, there was that sense of rising panic about it. Next morning, I went for a test and various things happened. I ended up driving my son in the car with me, thinking, this isn't very safe, is it? Maybe I shouldn't be doing this, really aware how ill I was. And then I spent 10 days going, I'm fine, I'm strong, I'll be fine. My immune system is great, my meditation, expert, it'll be fine. And saying to everybody, it's fine. Not sort of realizing you know, that boiling frog thing. Actually, I was really quite sick, and having a 5-year-old at home and not really any input from outside. You know, I think some people brought me some cups of tea from outside, but I got some ingredients, but no one cooked me a meal in those 10 days. I have no idea what my son ate for Christmas, for example. And I remember trying to do some Lego and it just being a real struggle beyond my capacity. And then I thought 10 days I'll be fine. I was getting better. I did a bit of yoga, and then that night my fever really broke. And I spent another 36 hours kind of worried about going to hospital. When I finally got to hospital, the relief was palpable. It was instant. And it's the same hospital where my son was born. So I found myself, I got onto the trolley, and I was like, right, this is me connecting in with the goddess, you know, the God that's in the divinity in this hospital. This is a place of healing. And I think from the outside, everyone was so fearful of hospitals. They're spreading it. It's a terrible place to go. I was really dreading going there. But when I was there, I could feel the expertise in the room. But I also could feel the fear. And it's like I knew people around me. There were a lot of very terrified older people who just looked like they were just shocked and panicked, and their system had no idea how to fight this. And the doctors were expert. Again, you know, having had 6 months of experience, they knew what they were doing, and they gave me certain pills, and I got oxygen straight away. The consultant listened to my chest. He said, 2 or 3 days, you'll be done. He could tell. And he was basically right on the money. I had a couple of days in hospital, very sort of sleepless nights. They're checking up on you all the time. It was quite intense, but I was never afraid in hospital. I spent quite a lot of energy thinking, okay, let's make sure we're talking to God. For me, how can I make this as relevant as possible? How can I make this experience how can I come out of this experience? And for me, having those conversations with God, in my case, we might talk about Shiva, who's the destruction operator. It's like, okay, Shiva, whatever you need to take from me, if I could just get back to my son, that'd be great. Whatever else, it's all for you. I'll just surrender anything, take it all, whatever you need. And my mother died of breast cancer at the same age. I realized I was the same age in hospital as she was when she died. I was like, oh, I haven't quite outlived her yet. And this is a thing that people die from.
I gotta outlive my mom.
Yeah, just how young she was. Just realizing I was 8 when she died, but it's young to lose a parent. And then just the other thing to say about this is that in hospital, a couple of things happened. I loved it. I loved witnessing the nurses were extraordinary, their patience, the sweetness that they had with all the sort of drama that was going on around them. I wasn't stuck in my own thoughts too much because there were other people around. I found the meditations were like crazy hallucinations. I have always said as a teacher, when you're ill, you meditate as much as feels comfortable, as if it's almost a treat. But actually in hospital, I almost dreaded closing my eyes because it's like I could see my body at war with itself. It was red and it was this and it was all these movies kind of playing out in my meditation. So it's that thing of you need to make space for meditation and be a bit determined about doing it. And then when you're in the space of meditating, we're effortless. And one of the doctors said my inflammation rates, had been 400 and dropped to 50. And he was really quite surprised how quick that had happened. I was like, yeah, that's the meditation.
How quickly did that occur for you over time?
So I was in for 4 nights altogether. And I went from 400 to 100 over 2 nights. And then it dropped again to 50. I don't really know what they were measuring. He said my inflammation rates, which had been 400, which is bad. And, 100 is fine to go home, but I stayed 1 more night and it dropped again. And I felt lots better. And again, people, I've got colleagues at work who also have it and who've had, longer term headaches and pain. And I have found that my recovery, I got home and I was told to stay at home for 10 days without my son, which of course was a blessing in some ways. I wasn't allowed to hug him on his birthday. That was one of the things. We had to meet outside and kind of wave. It's just, but I was so ill, I didn't really mind. Just very tired. But my recovery it feels complete. And actually today, I just had my vaccination today. It's interesting that this is happening of all the days. So I do, the reminder about how hard your body works is to stay alive was really strong for me. And I really got that feeling this is a chance to reset. This is a chance to just completely drop everything and just be looked after. I mean, I was fed pretty bland food, but I'm always grateful when anyone cooks me a meal. So the food arrived and these nice nurses would talk to me and I could just lie there and do nothing. And then back at home, my house was never been so tidy because there was just me. I was moving very slowly. My whole fridge was stacked with like soup. So I basically just for 10 days, just like took out soup, put it in a pan, washed up the one pan, and then sat down and looked around my house going, wow, old people are amazing. Because when there's nothing to go get up for, there's no reason to go to bed. I'm like, wow, this is a challenge. And I had crazy sort of sweats in the night, but but it also really reminded me this is a real thing, not to be sniffed at, if that's the wrong word, not to like stay home, wash your hands, do what they say, because it's big, it's real.
Did you have any kickback, or people say who have always been questioning the validity of meditation and you doing it? Well, if you were really, into meditation, then, you wouldn't have gotten sick. Did you have any?
Because for me, it just feels like it was my story to get it. I feel like it was the sort of the crescendo to my year, because I literally got home on the 30th of December, ready to start the new year at home. It felt like, for me, I have a way of doing things the hard way. Having a child in my 40s on my own, it's not necessarily the smoothest of rides. And it just, it felt perfect. Retrospectively, at the time, it was turbulent, of course. And I was saying, my friends were saying to me, you were saying, I'm fine. And we were like, no, you're not. So there's a certain amount of learning around it. But I think, I've been out in the world through this whole thing. I haven't been hiding away, because my job has taken me out in the world, and I made that decision. But it was such a strong urge to go to that particular place. And it's just interesting how that happened. I don't regret any of it. I don't berate myself for it at all. I'm like, it just happened. My son didn't, if he had it, he just sort of sneezed a few times and it was done. I haven't had anybody talk about it. If anything, it's really made me a better meditation teacher, because that experience of being ill, like I've taught some people who had cancer and going through chemo, and they talked a lot about how the meditations are uncomfortable. And now I sort of, having had that experience firsthand, has really helped me to be more empathetic, I feel. So
growing and seeing the good side of it. Have you had any long-term effects from it? People talk about the brain switches off, it's hard to come back on.
Yeah, I feel like, because my life is sort of divided up by school terms, and we've had the Easter holiday, and now we came back last week, and I feel like for the first time in a long time, I'm back in the room, like I'm 100% there. Partly I was on a phased return, but I feel so grateful to have my power back. And I'm not at full fitness. I mean, that's life more than just COVID. But it really made me appreciate my health and just, breath. And I would walk to the end of the garden and back. My son loved it, because he was staying next door. We would meet in the garden, and he would talk incessantly about cars, and I would just nod. I was very available to listen and talk about cars. Whereas now I'm a little bit more distracted. He's like, don't be distracted, mummy, come back. So, again, the benefit of these things. But I see colleagues of mine definitely with long-term effects, and my brain, it feels okay. But I think one of the things I really also realized is that when I was in it, it's that boiling frog, isn't it? You just don't realize how sick you got.
Mm-hmm.
And I had one of those things that measures on your finger, and thank goodness, because I had to check it a few times. I'm like, oh, those numbers aren't very good. I'm like, oh no, those numbers really aren't very good. And I don't feel my heart going that fast, but it's really very high. I'm like, okay, because you just have to make decisions for yourself, and I think it's a reminder, isn't it, when you're stressed, which is what disease is, isn't it? It's an overload of demands on your body. That was me before I learned to meditate. None of my decisions were very good, because I was just overloaded with stuff that I couldn't really see clearly. Meditation's extraordinary for that. And I think it doesn't make you immune from life. We're still out in the world, aren't we? We're very much householders, and we're very much partaking. And it feels like I've got a story to tell now. COVID was the story of last year. Here I am. I've got my story. I think maybe I like a story. But I think once I got into hospital, I knew I was going to be okay. I think that was, yeah, there was a moment of, there was definitely one night of like, okay, like bargaining with God, but yeah.
Well, laughter is something that you very much embrace now, right? Now you notice how much you can breathe, whereas before it was, we don't always appreciate something until it's taken away from us. And Camilla, if you haven't met her before, participated in our last live stream, which is loaded, on YouTube, which you can watch at any time, or it's still on our Facebook page. She does cacao ceremonies, is very much becoming a leader of people who meditate and love her journeys. But we're going to come back to that in a second, because we are going to be putting forward talk about laughter. Next weekend, we are going to be hosting the Yo Mamas comedy fundraiser, which is going to be coming across on Zoom. We will be having Mother's Day in a couple of weeks here in the US and other places in the world, not in the UK. You guys already have that. But through Zoom, we have got a wonderful lineup of some people are just a mum to themselves, and that is enough, of comics who've donated their time in lieu of this great cause, where we will be doing specific COVID restrictions. You might see a few funny objects on the microphone to protect people. And that is going to be 1 o'clock Pacific time, but it's going to be 9 o'clock in the UK. So those of you who are in the UK can absolutely dial in. We are I'm just going to let this load for a second. Everything goes through Eventbrite for the tickets. You'll see it here. And right here, I'm circling it's like DIP, Divas in Progress. I was seeing the letter V here, and that's why I was stumbling over it. I was like, Divas in Progress. Empower, I'm sorry. They are a non-profit organization with volunteer services all over the United States and some areas in the Caribbean, with a close affinity with those who are victims of trafficking. So we want to be able to help to go in and get some of that stress out that Camilla was talking about. So you'll see here, the link is going to be put in the chat. You can, as you'll be able to see, you will get the Zoom code 24 hours beforehand. If you look on the right-hand side, you'll see that it's a sliding scale. So we're going to trust that you're honest with how many people are dialing in for the portal there with what you'd like to do. And if you're in a position where you really can't afford it at all, then you'll simply send us an email, which will be put in the description, info@awaremeditation.com, and we'll find a way for you to do some exchange to participate in the laughter. If you can't make it at that time, no worries. It is actually being recorded and you'll have access to the recording. So that is next Saturday. We are going to be participating in that. We have some of our meditators are also performers as well. But I'd now like to have you share a wee bit about your cacao and how that came into your life and your guided ceremonies. And we'll go a wee bit over. I know it's really late for you, but I do want to make sure that we hear all about your cacao.
So just, I think it's going to be really fun. Your laughter is so important, and motherhood, the only way through it. Meditation, crucial, and laughter. Because there's just a lot of feces at the moment. It's just years of feces. Anyway, that would be my motherhood story, just tidying up. When my son was first born, my cat also had kittens. There was just a lot of beings pooing in my bedroom.
Oh, wow.
Anyway, so cacao, let's go back to other brown things. Chocolate's been one of those things. I learned to meditate and very quickly stopped drinking. I haven't quite gone vegetarian yet, but I found myself editing out things in my life that I had always kind of known weren't very good for me, but they just naturally, spontaneously kind of were no longer charming. However, chocolate just never seemed to go away. And I discovered a woman who did cacao ceremonies, and we'd go and sit in a circle in a sort of community hall in London and share our feelings and pull tarot cards, and I loved it. When I first got back, I'd done lots of shamanic work in Australia, lots of meditation work in Australia, knew a lot of people who would talk this language. I came back to England. If anyone's had that experience of traveling abroad and then coming back to your home country and everyone's just like, silent about these things that you've been really fascinated by. So I was seeking out people who would sit in circles and talk about their feelings. And the cacao ceremonies were very powerful and very, they were good for me. I really enjoyed them. And partly for London's just amazing kind of variety of people. I went back then, because throughout all these ceremonies, it was always, my question was always, where's my child? Where's my baby? Where's my baby? Why am I not having babies yet? That kind of mid-30s, like, and the message was always like, patience. I picked like cards saying patience and timing and maturity. And I just sort of, and lo and behold, he appeared. There's a whole other story there. And when he was a year old, around February time, obviously it's a lovely time to chocolate there's definitely February is chocolate time, isn't it, with Valentine's and all that. I went back to a ceremony and just sort of as a gratitude to say thank you to the cacao. And the woman who had been running these groups was doing her first training. And that just felt so charming. I had a week in Ibiza, left my son behind, first kind of, chunk of time away. And it was March in Ibiza, which is about as hot as my poor pale skin can cope with. Everybody else was still thinking it was a bit too cold. I was like, I need a hat, it's too much. But I trained up there with this woman, and it's really interesting with again with COVID, we've gone online, and who would have thought that it would work? But these things have been fascinating, and I've run cacao ceremonies now every month for the past couple of years, in person for a year, and then on Zoom. And I'm just at the point actually of shifting again. I haven't got back home and got back to school teaching. I'm just basically taking a sabbatical. You're very honoured, Paula. This is like the one thing I'm going to do between now and July. I've cancelled group meditation. I'm just making some time for myself. So I will be, however, I say that we are going to do, my friend Erin and I are going to do a cacao ceremony. We're going to look at doing them quarterly now, just shift it a little bit, and she's a really expert coach, and do some sort of goal setting, but very intentional kind of whole person goal setting. So do a cacao ceremony together, and then do some goal setting, and kind of check in with each other every quarter. So I think that's going to be the 13th of June. I'll send you all the details when it comes out.
Oh, yeah.
And it will be a kind of, 6, I think we do sort of 6 p.m. in England, which is kind of in the morning for you guys. So, the people on this side of the earth can kind of access it. And again, we have it on recording. But I have found it to be really interesting because the cacao, it has it's a natural stimulant of serotonin. And of course, when we meditate, the bliss chemistry, our chemistry in our mind, in our brains and bodies completely changes. It shifts from that stress to that bliss chemistry. And I've always said that meditation allows, by settling your mind, it allows the body to do its work. And with the cacao, the way it's like the equal opposite of that, which is that you take this kind of hit of serotonin, your body relaxes so your mind can do the work. And I've always, the meditators who come are invariably the ones who have the most expansive experience. They're the most open to the fact that this is going to be anything. It could be any kind of experience, like we know with meditation. And it's a little bit on the woo-woo side. It's a little bit of that hippie stuff, but I love it just to kind of dive in and, like I say, sit around and talk about our feelings. And also within the meditation, to expand our access to the divine in whatever way that looks for you.
Exactly.
Again, I keep it quite real. We don't disappear off up into the ether too much. We keep it. And I found it's very heart-opening. It is a heart-opening thing. I've had mothers and daughters come, and, people have big shifts in their relationships. One woman once said to me, I've realized I've been spending the past 6 months looking backwards, and now I'm going to look forwards. I was like, that's profound, isn't it? These things that by having a witness of it, in meditation, we tend not to pay too much attention to what it is that we experience. Whereas in the cacao ceremonies, you're really allowed to kind of indulge in that. Like, you're really listening to yourself. So I think it's a beautiful extra to do.
It's important to add that the meditation practice Camilla teaches and myself is not exclusive, which means you can do any other practices or any other particular goal setting, as you had mentioned. The only caveat is when you do meditate for 20 minutes, just don't do another practice in that time. right? People often aren't able to sit still and meditate, and they take a particular course and they find that they can. And some people then find that they also enjoy sitting in other kinds of meditation practices, or now are open because they're able to go in with that particular mantra that brings you in very deep, and you can get the stress out. So one can connect inward, right? Exactly to that heart area, which of course is the connector down from the up down to the bottom here for on our chakra with the Sushumnas. That it doesn't need to be a woo-woo experience at all. You don't have to believe in it to work. And such as your cacao is, where exactly did you go to learn how to be, is it called a cacao Easter?
Yeah, that's what. Her name's Rebecca Shaman, the lady I worked from and taught from and learnt from. Sorry, and she's based in London, and she calls herself an urban shaman, which I love. And we went to a place in Ibiza. I mean, she hired a place, in 14 of us, I think, a group of women, maybe 13 of us. We went over and we had this week, a very beautiful spiritual week, and it was out of season. So this island that's all set up for the crazy clubbing, teenagers of England was just beautiful and quiet and blissful. And we went skinny dipping in the water, and we drank cacao, and we just kind of connected with it. And what I love about it is it's about your connection with the goddess. And one of the things that's very similar between the cacao and the meditation is that people at the end say, I think I just fell asleep. And you're like, oh yeah, that's really good. But I said, but I woke up as soon as you finished. I woke up. You're like, well, it's not sleep then, is it? But yeah, and it drops you into a place, and our meditation is another way of dropping, just allowing yourself to rest, to really deeply rest. And it's such a beautiful thing. And I think we just all need to rest more. And for me, like, I've come back, I did a course last weekend and just had a real realization. I need to walk my talk. I need to stop doing so much. And I'm taking a little sabbatical. I'm doing quite a lot of training at the moment. I've started a Sanskrit course, again, online. It's all one of my favorite teacher that I used to travel all the way to West London to learn from. I now can just like tap in while I'm doing my work on a Thursday, and my son watches cartoons in the background. So I've started a 2-year course in Sanskrit. I'm doing some other further study, and it's just a blessed time, isn't it? And one of those expressions we often say is do less and accomplish more. And I feel like these things, these sayings that we've heard and said so many times, they get re-enlivened. You come back to it a year later or a few months later, or like, I think for me, COVID was a huge shift, like something really big changed for me. And it's like, okay, what does that mean for me now? And we all need more rest, all of us. Even us meditation teachers.
And accomplish more. And the more we practice with advanced techniques that people have, we start to live in do least and accomplish most. Being English, I absolutely enjoy sitting on my bottom and accomplishing a lot doing seemingly nothing. This is probably why the practice works so well for me, among other things. But it does give you 2 to 5 times more deep rest. The nervous system gets stabilized. And if the physiology is off, then the head at the top is not going to be stable to absorb perception, information, and discern what is or is not true, and right, the true from the false with that. Camilla can be found. She's at Stable House Meditation. We will be putting all of that in the description for you. Again, please subscribe to the channel to help us grow here. We would like to make sure that you feel all invited. Everyone, please come to the show, the Yo Mamas. It's very important that we have people we want to support us, and if you want to have a good laugh with that, I think here I might have, let me see if I can do this. I can share a little clip of one of our mamas from TikTok. I am having a problem with my words today. You're going to see all my little notes here. Let me see if we can get.
Mom, are you single and willing to date TikTok boys aged 23 to 15?
Line them up.
I love that.
Kind of a silly, wonderful experience that we expect. I'm sorry. I just did that. Just made me laugh really hard. When we have our your mamas, and I'll just leave you with one other one that I will try to share right now. Is equally as long. Let me see what we can get here. And this would be myself, yours truly. Morning cuddles. Mommy coming in for morning cuddles. Mommy coming in. And that is exactly what happened one morning. So that's how somebody gets woken up. And that is exactly what happened one morning. So
there you go. Brilliant. I can't wait. It's going to be really fun.
All right, I had to have too many channels going at the same time. So with
Brilliant.
that, thank you so much.
I can't wait. It's going to be really fun. Sorry.
All right, I had to have too many channels go. I'm here. There we go. We just had some feedback from something else. You did. That's you. All right. Thank you again so much, everybody, for joining us. We're grateful that you're here. Feel free to come back. We're going to start doing more online videos. If you have any other questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. I will put us all in contact with Camilla. If you have questions for her, you felt a little too shy about that. And I wanted to just bring us out here, and Google is just being poopy. So with that, I will say bye-bye. Thank you so much for being with us. I do not know why this won't go away here. Okay, great. I've got it now. There's always something that's just going to kill us. And I will end on us being shared and looking at the home screen of Aware Meditation Inc. should you like to participate, and finding all the information. So thank you so much, and have a beautiful week.
Bye.